introduce our first delightful, beautiful speaker. He just spoke on holistic bhakti, on marriage, intimacy and relationships, and did, with his wife, Gauravani, did a fantastic job at opening a whole can of worms. It was a wonderful presentation. We're going to have part two shortly. He was born a devotee into ISKCON, and his marriage to Gauravani was actually overseen, quite unusually, because my Srila Gurudeva didn't really do it. I don't think he did hardly any marriages. They had a 3-day marriage ceremony overseen by Srila Gurudeva. They've been married for 15 years. He's got 3 beautiful kids. He is involved in all sorts of charities and seva, food distribution in schools. He's the head of a US bank that structures loans to small and medium-sized enterprises all over America, and they're starting to expand outside of America. And I looked at his online bio, and it says he's done $6 billion worth of deals. So my suggestion is, when you get to 8.64 billion, Visvambhara, you need to have a little celebration with Lord Brahma, okay? So we'll arrange that, So, I also, he's my friend. He's beautiful. I've known him since, I don't know how old you were when I first met you, but you always look younger than you are. So I probably met you when you were about 16. You looked about 9 at the time.
We made peanut butter and jelly sandwich for Govardhan.
That sounds about right. That sounds absolutely about right. So I'm not going to steal any more of your time. It's Sriman Visvambhara Das from San Francisco, beaming, effulgent, beautiful as ever. Please, the Vyasa-san, the Zoom Vyasa-san is yours.
Oh, Jai. Thank you, Yashodanandan Prabhu. First off, I'd like to offer my obeisances to my grandsire, Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And secondly, I'd like to offer my most worshipful, humble obeisances to my spiritual father, my guru, Diksha Guru, ongoing spiritual master, eternally, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, who is the best of the 11th generation of acharyas, the Yuga Acharya, and is the foremost member of the entire Rupanuga dynasty, constantly tasting Braj mellows and has distributed pure bhakti throughout the world, and through channels like this, in such a beautiful name. I was meditating on Yashodanandan Prabhu's name, through channels like Yashodanandan and different, the Braj Katha, pure bhakti, and the mellows of Braj that Gurudev initiated is continuing on. So all glories to Gurudev. So I'd like to start with, Yashodanandan Prabhu asked me to start with the first meeting, and actually the first meeting was very indirect. It was 1997, and I actually had the misfortune to not connect with Gurudev because of my own judgments, actually. I came over to Badger, to New Braj, and I came through my family connections. I was born and raised in ISKCON. And so my aunties and my uncles, I noticed that they were all going and being inspired by Gurudev, by Narayan Maharaj. And I went there for a moment, and I saw how happy everybody was, and I just couldn't believe it. So I turned around and left. 1997. Then I reconnected actually in 2002. It took a lot of turbulations for me from 97 to 2002 through services in ISKCON, the ups and downs in the BBT, Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, and different services with ISKCON leadership, to then go through a quick, I guess, growth of happiness, distress, and sadness in devotional service, really. And I realized I was missing a spiritual guide. And growing up in the movement, it's very difficult, actually, to find your Prabhupada. And Gurudev manifested through his golden complexion, literally, and through his message, the spirit of Prabhupada. And it took me years to really appreciate that. And my first meeting with Gurudev, he spoke in Bengali to me, and I felt as if he was speaking to a spiritual side of me. And growing up in ISKCON and hearing from my parents about their meetings with Prabhupada and seeing the videos of Prabhupada and seeing the ecstatic kirtans and the flowers and the colors and hearing the beautiful pastimes and the power of that Shakti. Then when I met Gurudev, I felt that eternal power. And he spoke to me in Bengali, of all things. I am not Bengali. For the record, my body is a Salvadorian. And my mother, Central American pioneer, and my father, United States pioneer, joined in '68, and my mother joined in '74. But Gurudev just spoke to me, and he thought I was Bengali, and he says, "Play Mridanga." I did know how to play Mridanga, just like other Guru Coolies know how to play Mridanga. That's just a thing that you're just born with, and you play pretty good. You just to kind of pick it up and you just do it. Then that was around 2002, and then around 2000, within 6 months of that meeting period, then his Vyas Puja was in January, February. Then Gurudev went to Alachua. I didn't have the chance. He invited me to come to Alachua. I couldn't go. But then he was coming back to California, and Gurudev would do a tour in the United States. Sometimes he'll start in the West Coast. Sometimes he started in the East Coast. This particular year, they decided to do Vyas Puja in the East Coast. And then he came to the West Coast in California and started his tour in Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles, this is before I had the opportunity to receive initiation from Gurudev. I was following him. And in Los Angeles, I was still doing BBT work. I was doing Seva for the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. I was the head of their commercial cells globally. And I was only, I forget, I was 18, 19 years old. I think 18 or 19. Through my connections, my father's connections, and and through other devotees, I was working with the BBT. Also, I was working for Krishna Books, Hansaduta, helping Hansaduta Prabhu. And so during that time in ISKCON, there was this whole copyright, the original Prabhupada books controversy. I heard a big order came from the Gaudiya Math. And I was already associating with Gurudev. And I asked the Krishna Books people, the devotees that were working with Hansaduta, who's placing this big order from the Gaudiya Math? They said, we don't know. It's going to different places around the United States and Hawaii, and it's going to Australia. They said it's the biggest order of Prabhupada's original books. So I had to find out. I found out it was Srila Narayan Raj's group. That really melted my heart because first and foremost, being in ISKCON, I'm Prabhupada's guy. And when I heard and saw that Gurudev, that Narayan Raj was not only just helping Prabhupada's disciples, but it was also activating them in seva, in service, and was buying with his own pranami Prabhupada's original books. That showed not just, he was traveling, helping, and distributing Prabhupada's books himself, practically, because he was sponsoring the books and giving them out. That was Gurudev's philosophy. So I met with Gurudev then in Los Angeles around that time when I heard about this, and I was still doing a lot of service with ISKCON. And then I went to some of the morning walks, and I remember Prem Prayojan, at that time, he was Aranya Maharaj. He'd asked the question about book distribution, pure bhakti. And he said, oh, Gurudev, the book distributors, they're making these points. They have this point system in ISKCON, and there's some pride. And immediately I felt I was already, even though Gurudev spoke to me in Bengali, and I felt that he and I had a strong connection, like he knew my spiritual self. The devotees around Gurudev, I didn't feel I was in place, because coming from ISKCON and BBT, it was all Prabhupada, you're preaching, you're pushing the movement. new territories, new zones, new points. And it was mixed bhakti, but it was exciting. It was an adventure. It was an exciting bhakti. And it was a way that you could use your body and energy. Then in Gurudev's Sangha, I didn't find that. So I felt a little misplaced. Gurudev said to Aranya Maharaj at that time, he said, this pride is good. It's a morning walk on Venice Beach. He says, actually, book distribution, points, this pride, anything for Guru, for Prabhupada, like this, if you have pride and you're doing, this is very good. I felt so happy hearing that, because this is my Gurudev. He's really, he is the fire. He's not fired up. He is the fire, right? And I guess there are certain elements around him, maybe I felt, that were not as fired up. So then Gurudev met with me privately at the Venice Beach Temple. Before the Rose Temple, they had a temple, Gurudev had a temple right on the beach, like 10 yards away, 20 yards away from the beach, on Venice Beach. Beautiful, 2-3-story place. And Jagmohan Prabhu and Govinda Dasi, a few devotees were basically started it. Shri Radha Govinda, that Gurudev installed back in San Diego, came up to Los Angeles and were the resident deities at the temple. And I went up, and I was very lucky, because I guess since I was a BBT boy, I had the opportunity to just see Gurudev. I was in books, so I had the opportunity to see Gurudev anytime, all the time. So I went up, and Hridayananda Das Goswami was downstairs. He was waiting to see Gurudev too. He had some questions about the Mahabharata, because he was composing the Mahabharata, translating it. I heard him talking to some other of his godbrothers, and I went upstairs to be with Gurudev, and I saw this big sunlight. It was like after the morning walk, probably it was, I suspect, 8 a.m. So the sunrise in the room, it was east. Sun was like this. It was a fulgent sun. I'll never forget. He was on a rocking chair, and Sajjan Maharaj was sitting there doing his japa, looking at Gurudev, and Gurudev's door was open, and it was upstairs. Brajanath Prabhu was right next to him, and I had the opportunity I had darshan. I didn't want to disturb Gurudev. I had some questions I wanted to ask. I wanted to talk to him, but I just saw he was he was present and not present. He was manifest and then also unmanifest. And you could see he was just doing his japa. It was rocking. And Sajjan Maharaj, a senior Prabhupada disciple, was sitting, doing his japa, seeing Gurudev. Having that vision, seeing my uncle, who I have high regard and respect, seeing how he was worshiping Gurudev with his eyes and his japa and mantras, and Gurudev was doing his sankirtan, made a deep impression that it increased my shraddha. It went from a moment of Gurudev, I felt that Gurudev was my eternal father who knew my identity, to somebody that has the fire to fire up everybody, to a fact that now my uncle, a senior Prabhupada disciple, is acknowledging that power. Gurudev then spoke at the it was a Ram hotel. I forget it was. It was 2003, that summer. The Ram Hotel, or Ramada Hotel. I think it was Ramada Hotel, which was 2-3 miles away from the LA temple. I was staying there. All the devotees were staying there, and Gurudev spoke at those years. Gurudev would speak in the mornings and evenings. So it was the morning, and I guess it was after the morning walk, after the morning darshan. We all went. It was 10 a.m. I forget what time it was. And I walked in. The first thing I saw when I walked in, I saw all of Prabhupada's original books. Then I looked to the left, and it was the auditorium, decorated, huge photo of Prabhupada. And then I probably never seen, other than the Prabhupada festival that ISKCON LA would hold, I've never seen so many Prabhupada disciples in my life. It was probably as big, maybe bigger. It made such an impression to see who was there. It was not all the Prabhupada disciples you see in the videos. These were the leaders, right? You see, this is like Gopa Vrindapal and Mula Prakriti. I mean, you saw some of the heavy hitters, right? Vrinavina Vilasini. You saw Jadharani. And then you saw just the Jumna. I was like, whoa, Bhagavan was there. I was like, wait a minute, who? And then the Shinti, all these devotees that you hear and you saw the photos in the movies. These are the people I admired, respected, and worshiped. I was working for the BBT, and it was just at the BBT, it was just a bunch of Russian devotees that were immigrated, Bengali devotees that immigrated, so they were hired guns. And then there was 2 Prabhupada disciples over there, right? I went to the Gurudev festival. It was all of Prabhupada's disciples. Like, wait, what am I doing? Where am I at? This is amazing. It was such an amazing vision to witness. And Gurudev sat and he spoke. And to witness his power and fire in the morning walk, his Shakti. And then when he sat down and he spoke Harikatha, he started with his obeisances to Prabhupada. And I've met many Gaudiya Math acharyas actually. And Gurudev had a very, very distinguished connection with Srila Prabhupada. And it was, you could see it, distinguished connection. I hear the different Gaudiya Math acharyas that came before Gurudev or came after Gurudev, and I had the opportunity to either meet them in India or in America. The way they sometimes would glorify Prabhupada, sometimes they'll say something about Prabhupada, sometimes they wouldn't say anything about Prabhupada. But when Gurudev spoke about Prabhupada and he glorified him and he said, he's my Shiksha Guru, you saw there was a direct channel connection. This was not an ordinary connection. This was like twin brothers, identical, like twin brothers. This was a deep connection. And Gurudev was glorifying Prabhupada in such a way, and he was seeing the devotees, the Prabhupada disciples, and saying, I want it to, now I've come to be, to do Ishtagosti, I've come to, I want your association. Because Swamiji, he said, Bhaktivedanta Swamiji, he has done a miracle. He started temples of Vrindavan everywhere. I want your association. You have helped him so much. And the way and then he started crying. He was talking about Prabhupada's original books, how many years, he said, he did Chaitanya Charitamrita in just 2 years. Chaitanya Charitamrita. The way Gurudev appreciated Prabhupada and highlighted what he did was such a reinvigorating moment for me to witness, because in ISKCON, there was no more Prabhupada disciples. Even my parents, they were still doing service, but they were not inspired by the ISKCON leadership. There was so much disharmony. And to see Gurudev not just harmonize, but inject new power and Shakti in Prabhupada's disciples was seriously a miracle. It is a miracle, in my opinion. Because and also for me as growing up in ISKCON movement, because a lot of my brothers, a lot of my sisters, they joined a lawsuit against ISKCON, which ISKCON went through bankruptcy. There's a lot of issues, a lot of baggage, and Gurudev came and he just cleared all that baggage and gave renewed hope and actually saved, in my opinion, saved the Bhakti movement in the West. To so much so that I'm raising my children in Bhakti. And I can't say I would have, because people like my wife would never have come close to any ISKCON temple, even though she is Prabhupada's daughter. Her name was given by Prabhupada. All right. So many of my brothers and sisters, and then also so many of my uncles and aunts. I never seen all these Prabhupada disciples. I saw them when they were in 20s, but Gurudev brought them back. That was the power of Gurudev. I brought over some of my, I had some connections. I brought over some devotees from ISKCON leadership, some Indian devotees, and they were from Vrindavan. So I said, oh, they should meet Gurudev. So I brought them over. They came over and they're like, Jai Prabhupada, right? But it was a little obnoxious. And Gurudev said, all glories to the Shakya, what was it? Shakya Vaishavatar. Shakya Vaishavatar. And actually on Baladev's appearance day, it's very interesting. Shakya Vaishavatar is Krishna's expansion, direct. All glories of Shakya Vaishavatar. Shakya Vaishavatar is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Oh, the Indian devotees were like, whoa. This personality knows who Prabhupada is. We only know him externally. Oh, he knows he is direct personification of Krishna's channel. Only his brother could know that. Only Prabhupada's brother could know that. And Gurudev, even back then, I remember reading, I think it was the Harmonists or something. I remember reading that Gurudev was criticized for saying stuff like that about Prabhupada. In Vrindavan, some of the Goswamis, they would criticize, like, how could you say that Prabhupada is Shakya Vaishavatar? Right? They would criticize Gurudev. Gurudev took bold positions to not only help out Prabhupada's disciples, but to protect Prabhupada's image in India, right? And then also to highlight what was Prabhupada's speciality in the West. So Gurudev asked me then, around that time in LA, I had the opportunity then to receive Harinam. And Gurudev asked me to, oh no, it wasn't LA, it was San Francisco. LA, then Bajra Festival, then San Francisco comes up. In San Francisco, I engaged in the kitchen seva, and then I received Harinam. I was coordinating the kitchen seva for a 3-day festival that Radhakanta Prabhu put on with the devotees in San Francisco. And Gurudev asked me at the Harinam to help with his books. And therein lies the beginning of my seva. I was actually started with Gurudev in the kitchen, but ended up with book seva. and in the kitchen, it was Gurudev was at the end of the 3-day festival. I remember Gurudev was thanking everybody that attended, all the sannyasis that traveled, and then Gurudev wanted to know who helped in the kitchen. I never experienced this because in the kitchen, you in ISKCON, you do BBT work, you're in the kitchen. Nobody talks about the kitchen devotees. Nobody talks about the kitchen devotees, especially at the festival. I mean, it's always the donors, ABC donor, XYZ donor, right? Nobody talks about who was in the kitchen. So immediately Gurudev asks Radhakanta, who coordinated all the kitchen and all the cooks and everything? Oh, he said Visvambhara does. He said, oh, my disciple, my son, come here. And Gurudev gave me his garland. And my parents were there, I remember, and they didn't know, I didn't tell them that I received initiation. So my mother was shocked because she was scared I was going to lose all my ISKCON services. Because during that time, it was the peak of the the debates, the separation. Oh, if you're with Narayan Raj, you're not ISKCON. So it's a peak of that. So then from my mom's perspective, she was friendly with Gurudev and Gurudev's disciples, but she wasn't going to take shiksha or do this. For her son, her eldest son, to do that, I saw immediately, I saw her face from the stage, and I don't know why Gurudev just did that. And he took me, and he obviously wanted me, and he wanted everybody to know that I was his. And thereafter, Gurudev then took me for his book seva. I recall there was meetings that Gurudev had with the devotees during the end of his tour. He would meet with especially in a continent. So at the end of the American tour, San Francisco was his last stop, and he was going to Europe that year. He would meet with the sannyasis. So he had a meeting with Dristaduma, Aranya Maharaj, Damodar Maharaj, Ashram Maharaj was present. I believe Nemi Maharaj was one of the years he came to the West. Nemi Maharaj was into America. Nemi Maharaj was present. So it was a huge group of, Padmanabha Maharaj was present, a huge group of sannyasis. They're all meeting with Gurudev. Radhakanta was there. And I befriended some of the sannyasis already. And I was independent, and I was in transition. I wasn't going to school. I was in transition, getting ready to go to college. And Gurudev had an idea for how to engage me, but there was a tour that they were putting together in New Zealand and Australia. They were asking Gurudev, oh, could Visvambhara, maybe you could have Visvambhara come with us. And Damaraj said, oh, maybe Visvambhara could come and assist me. And then some other devotees were asking if I could travel with them to do some East Coast tour. So there was some book tour that was going on. Gurudev said, no. I want him to stay and be with Radhakanta. He's going to be helping out with my books. So Gurudev decided then and there, I was going to help out with his books. And he so much wanted me to be committed to the books. Gurudev arranged for a lot of my college to be paid for. Gurudev actually paid for a big portion of my education in finance and accounting, because Gurudev it was a time when Gurudev wanted his books, and he was doing the Govardhan project, and he had other projects he wanted. This is before Navadvip, way before Navadvip, but he was doing the Govardhan project and books, and he wanted to organize things more like the time of Prabhupada, because Gurudev's Sangha was increasing so much, and it was very much a growth period. Around the time I came, it was a time that it's just shot. Gurudev published at that year, I think 12 books. Bhajan Rahasya, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. It was Pravandavali, Origins of Rath Yatra. There was like 12 books. Oh, their lasting, he did the new ones. Shamrani did their lasting relationship. My Shiksha Guru Priya Bandhu. He did the new song book, came out. So it was like a collection of 12 books that Gurudev did. And then Gurudev bought all the biggest order that the Krishna Books group had, a lot of original books from Prabhupada. And Gurudev then arranged shipments throughout the entire world for that. So Gurudev wanted that to be more organized, and he engaged me in that. I recall in Gurudev's class, I think it was when after 1 year of engaging in the book seva, I came to Hawaii. It was 1 year later, or 9 months later. Gurudev was having his Vyas Puja, and I was giving a report of everything that was happening. Right? Gurudev was very anxious, and it was an excellent time, because it was, for me, I was always able to, because I was engaged in book seva. Gurudev his doors were always open. At that time, the Sangha was growing so much, and Gurudev's world travels, that Gurudev would have a bodyguard at his room, who could come in, who can't come in. But if you're in book seva, the doors were open. And Gurudev at that Vyas Puja, he spoke about 3 classes of disciples, 3 classes of disciples. And he said, I was thinking this, I was remembering this. He said 3 classes of disciples. He said the 3rd class is you hear Guru and you do nothing. I was thinking, oh, great. I remember that. And then the 2nd class is you hear Guru, you do something about that, right? 1st class is you don't even need to hear Guru. You know Guru's heart. And you engage you exhibit your service, right? So at that time, Gurudev, when he was giving that class, I remember that I wanted to be that 1st class disciple. So immediately I was, but the thing is though, you try to be the 1st class disciple based on your realization. So at that time I thought, oh, I know what he wants in his heart. He wants, okay, so let's reorganize his funds and stuff in such a way that we could account for the different projects. Okay, and then let me put the book report together and show him, Jiva Pavana Prabhu's here, right? So the UK, how's the UK doing? Right? How is South America doing? How's Australia and Fiji doing, right? So putting the accounts and reports. Gurudev was so happy. Gave him the reports. He was so happy. Now at that time, I thought, oh yes, I'm becoming a 1st class disciple. I was enthusiastic. It was, I just put everything into it. Gurudev told me at that time, he said, you are mine. You are mine. You were mine before, you are mine, and you came here to assist me. And now you'll always be mine going forward. And he says, I have big plans. This is before the Navadvip project. I'll never forget. He says, I have big plans. And so I got excited. I was like, okay, let's do this. Gurudev knew exactly how to get me all energetic and engaged. So let's do this. And then Gurudev, then, he was getting me educated, finance and accounting. And then around that time, the Navadvip project, Gurudev separated from the Samiti. And Gurudev, as you know, Gurudev was the secretary, general secretary, and one of the 3 pillars of the Samiti. Vaman Maharaj disappeared, and there was a big separation. And Gurudev decided that as a result of Kala, he said, as a result of time, that the Samiti will always be my home. But now there's another Acharya, and I had to do something in Navadvip. And it was a big move. And I'm sure he called on devotees like you showed Nandan Prabhu here. And he called on different devotees. And he just engaged them. Give your blood, your life, your business, everything. Get ready, because I'm going to build something for the whole world. And it was first time in history. I remember I went to Govardhan a few times because that's where Gurudev's main project was. Then Navadvip was happening. And Gurudev then just got the land with Prabhupada Prabhu got the land, and Gurudev arranged the balances. We saw it, the first Gorpurnim festival there. I brought my mother, and it was such a moment of healing for her to see the Bengalis, because she used to go to ISKCON Mayapur, Gorpurnim, and the way in ISKCON Mayapur, the Bengalis and the Westerners, the Bengalis are more like hired employees, and the Prabhupada disciples are like the masters, right? At the ISKCON Mayapur. My mother got to experience in ISKCON and Gurudev's Sangha, and this is just, we had just a tent. Gurudev built this tent, and the devotees built this tent. It was just a massive tent. I shouldn't, it was it was like it was 2 football fields, 2 football fields tent. And there was 15,000 Bengalis. My mother and I were intimidated. I will never forget the intimidation. Yashodananda Prabhu shows up, he always showed up like 2 days before Gorpurnim, and, from the Middle East or somewhere. I forget where he showed up, and he was just exhausted. He was just done. I remember he's sleeping. I'm like, oh, dude, he's just asleep. He's sleeping. I feel that tired. And then we're doing it was exhausting time. We're doing parikram, you're with 15,000 Bengalis, but to see then the sannyasis serving the Westerners and Bengalis during that Navadvip festival, that Gaur-Purnima festival. It was amazing. We were sitting, the Bengalis and devotees were sitting together. This was the manifestation of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's vision. This was Prabhupada's mission. He didn't want the Westerners to be the masters. He didn't want the Bengalis to be the masters. He didn't want, the Indians to be the employees he's like, no, we're all going to come together. We're all on the same level. And actually, you know what? The sannyasis and leaders are going to serve Prashad. Gurudev created that fire. That was the firebrand of Gurudev's Sankirtan movement. And he created a place of which not just the ISKCON Gurukulis could come and Prabhupada disciples could come, but also the Gaudiya Math and the Bengalis from the villages, from East Bengal, from Bangladesh, could also come together on the same platform and do kirtan and honor Prashadam and visit the holy places of the pastime places of Mahaprabhu. To witness that and go through that with Gurudev, he basically completed the house that Prabhupada built in which the whole world could live in. That's what Gurudev did. And to see that in India, which is it's culturally, it's practically impossible. Gurudev performed that miracle culturally. And we're all together. And so Gurudev then envisioned, he continued on. He says, I want to build 3 large guest houses for all the pilgrims and a large Sankirtan hall. And so the fundraising, the book distribution, the marketing, it began. And so that was the next phase of my seva as assistant treasurer to Gurudev, was to let's do this. And so Gurudev arranged then for me to travel, and my tickets got paid for to be with him in different places, and to do art through the arts, through the books, through different paraphernalia, and just to engage everybody, not just fundraising, but really an engagement of prachar, preaching. Here are Gurudev's gifts. Let's give it out and let's expand the mission. It was lovely. I think I have to wrap up here, Yashoda.
I love what you said about Gurudev he wasn't just fired up. He is the fire. He is the fire. That's it's a great expression, and we're all fired up because he's the fire, and he continues to be the fire. And Prabhupada and him are like one engulfing huge fire that's being spread all over the planet more and more and more. And it's like in my presentation the other day, I investigated the word sambandha, and in the bandha part of sambandha means you've got two vastus, two things that are bound together, and the rope is the praying. But it's sam, which means to perfection. It's extreme. So it's 2 separate entities that are extremely connected to a point of union, but there's always separation. There's always individuality of personality. And so we've got these 2 incredible personalities, Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev, who have come together one after another as a tag team to really take the prem that Mahaprabhu came to give through Rupa Goswami, through Raghunath Das Goswami, through Parampara, through Bhaktivinoda Thakur, through his son Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, through Param Gurudev, through Prabhupada, through Gurudev, into our hearts. We're all getting injections of this Shakti into us to empower us and many other people who haven't even come to Krishna consciousness yet, to spread this beautiful bhakti all over the world. And I feel like your presentation captured that in a very historic way. It's beautiful to hear that history. This is history. Like during the Rupa Goswami festival, a lot of the speakers talked about the history of Rupa Goswami and the incredible meetings with Mahaprabhu and all the interactions with the Kazai with a Nawab, sorry, etc., etc. And you know, this is what's going to happen for the period of time that we've experienced. Gurudev, Prabhupada, this is all history that's going to be recounted down the ages in 100, 200, 500 years time. Who knows? If you may even come back and have to hear the history in another life, taking another guru. Who knows? But hopefully you'll be in another universe with Bhaktivinoda Thakur or whichever member of the Parampara.
I think we'll be with Gurudev always. Gurudev told us. He says you'll be with me in the future.
Well, listen, that was a beautiful presentation.